Britain in the Victorian era was a nation of extraordinary contrasts. An empire upon which the sun never set, yet plagued by poverty and social upheaval that would reshape the modern world. This was also an age of unprecedented transformation. Queen Victoria reigned for over 63 years, overseeing industrial, political, scientific, and military changes that expanded the British Empire dramatically. Thanks to advanced AI technology and historical paintings, we can now recreate these scenes with remarkable accuracy. By analyzing authentic Victorian photographs, engravings, and architectural records, we're able to show how Britain likely appeared during this golden age, allowing us to step back over 150 years and experience the empire as Victorians once did. This is Buckingham Palace in the mid-19th century, the magnificent seat of royal power and the official residence of Queen Victoria. Victoria became the first British monarch to make Buckingham Palace her principal residence when she ascended the throne in 1837. The grand facade you see here was still taking shape during her early reign. Victoria commissioned architect James Pennethorne to design new additions, including the spectacular ballroom completed in 1856, transforming what had been an incomplete and somewhat uncomfortable dwelling into a symbol of imperial majesty. Notice the elegant proportions and the neoclassical architecture. Behind these gilded gates and magnificent walls, Victoria and her beloved Prince Albert raised 9 children while managing an empire spanning a quarter of the globe. The building had significant problems initially, with smoking chimneys, poor ventilation, and foul smells, but Prince Albert reorganized the household and addressed these design faults by the end of 1840. This palace became the rallying point for a nation, hosting lavish balls, state banquets, and diplomatic receptions that showcased Britain's wealth and influence to the world. This is Hyde Park in 1851, transformed by the most spectacular building of the Victorian age. The Crystal Palace, designed by Joseph Paxton, was a revolutionary structure of cast iron and plate glass, measuring 1,851 feet long with an interior height of 128 feet. Built to house the Great Exhibition, this architectural marvel rose from plans to grand opening in just 9 months, using 293,000 panes of glass manufactured by Chance Brothers. 6 million people visited the Great Exhibition, equivalent to a third of Britain's entire population at the time. Picture the scene. Visitors from every social class walking beneath full-grown elm trees enclosed within walls of glass, marveling at over 100,000 exhibits from across the globe. Steam engines roared, hydraulic presses demonstrated industrial might, and exotic goods from India, China, and the far corners of the empire dazzled the crowds. This wasn't just an exhibition, it was a statement to the world that Britain stood at the pinnacle of human achievement. The event generated a surplus of £186,000, which helped establish the Victoria and Albert Museum, the Science Museum, and the Natural History Museum. This is Manchester in the 1850s, the beating heart of Britain's Industrial Revolution and the world's first industrial city. Manchester grew from a small village of fewer than 10,000 inhabitants in 1700 to a city of over 1 million people by 1851. The massive brick factories you see dominating the skyline are cotton mills, powered by revolutionary steam engines that transformed raw materials into finished cloth at unprecedented speeds. Raw cotton from Egypt and America was shipped to Liverpool, then spun and woven in Lancashire mills before being exported worldwide. The towering chimneys belch coal smoke into the sky, a symbol of both progress and pollution. Workers were often forced to live in crowded back-to-back housing built by factory owners near the factories, with rows of houses separated only by narrow courts or strips of muddy ground. By the 1870s, Britain possessed over 100,000 steam engines driving the workshops of the world, making it the unrivaled industrial superpower of the age. This is Street Pancras Station in 1876, one of the most magnificent railway termini ever constructed. The soaring Gothic Revival architecture, designed by George Gilbert Scott, rises like a cathedral to the new religion of steam and speed. Built between 1868 and 1876, St. Pancras featured innovative iron structures that combined cutting-edge construction methods with historical architectural styles. The Midland Grand Hotel adjoins the station, its ornate spires and turrets declaring Victorian confidence and ambition to the world. By 1851, 6,800 miles of railway track had been laid across Britain, with trains traveling at speeds exceeding 60 miles per hour. Railways revolutionized everything. Travel that once took days now took hours. Fresh food could reach cities from distant farms, and most remarkably, the working classes could afford to travel for the first time in history. The station's vast iron and glass train shed, stretching 240 feet wide, was the largest single-span structure of its time, demonstrating British engineering prowess that was copied worldwide. This is the Palace of Westminster, home to the British Parliament, rebuilt in spectacular Gothic Revival style after fire destroyed the medieval palace in 1834. Designed by architects Charles Barry and Augustus Pugin, the new building opened in 1870 with Gothic elements like steeply pitched roofs and turrets organized with classical balance and symmetry. The iconic clock tower, housing Big Ben, rises 316 feet above the Thames, its bells marking time for the world's most powerful democracy. Every detail speaks of Victorian ambition. The riverside terraces, the intricate stonework, the soaring Victoria Tower at the south end, all proclaim Britain's parliamentary tradition and imperial might. Within these chambers, debates raged over factory reforms, public health acts, and the expansion of voting rights that gradually transformed Britain from an aristocratic society into a modern democracy. This building became the architectural model for parliamentary structures across the British Empire, from Canada to Australia. This is a panoramic view of London from the 1880s, the largest and most prosperous city on Earth. London's population exploded from just over 1 million in 1801 to 2.6 million by 1851, and reached 5.6 million by 1891. The cityscape is a testament to Victorian architectural diversity. Gothic churches pierce the sky, classical banks line the financial district, and endless rows of brick terraced houses stretch to the horizon. Victorian architecture became the single largest group from any period in London, reflecting the massive building boom as population growth demanded millions of new homes and commercial buildings. You can see the Thames crowded with steamships and sailing vessels, bridges spanning the river carrying railways and road traffic, and the ever-present coal smoke that gave London its nickname, the Big Smoke. This was the capital of an empire controlling a quarter of the world's population and territory, the financial center where pounds sterling ruled global commerce, and the cultural heart producing literature, science, and innovation that shaped the modern world. This scene captures the stark contrasts of Victorian society. On one side, you see the elegant townhouses of Mayfair, where the aristocracy and newly wealthy industrialists lived in splendor with servants, fine furnishings, and every modern convenience. Their homes featured pitched roofs, ornate fireplaces, sash windows, and eventually gas lighting, indoor plumbing, and private bathrooms. On the other side, the reality for millions. Workers labored from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily without health benefits, bonuses, or vacation, forced to leave children with little supervision in drafty homes with inadequate septic systems, no running water, and little ventilation. Disease ran rampant in overcrowded slums. Yet this same era saw reforms. Factory acts limiting child labor, public health legislation, the beginnings of universal education, and the gradual expansion of democratic rights. Victorian Britain was transforming from a brutally divided society into a more compassionate, if still unequal, modern nation. This is a visualization of Britain's global reach at the height of Victoria's reign. In 1876, Parliament granted Victoria the additional title of Empress of India, formalizing Britain's control over the jewel in the imperial crown. Map the territories colored in British red: India, Australia, Canada, vast stretches of Africa, islands across every ocean. This empire encompassed over 400 million people and covered nearly a quarter of the Earth's land surface. From London, decisions made in Whitehall affected the lives of people from Singapore to Cape Town, from Calcutta to Calgary. British ships patrolled the seas, British banks financed global trade, British engineers built railways on every continent, and British missionaries spread Christianity and Western education worldwide. Victoria's Golden Jubilee in 1887 and Diamond Jubilee in 1897 were massive festivals celebrating both the Queen's reign and the empire itself, with colonial conferences attended by prime ministers of self-governing colonies. The Victorian era established Britain as the world's supreme superpower, a position it would maintain until the Great War shattered the old order. Queen Victoria died at Osborne House on the Isle of Wight on January 22, 1901, at age 81, after suffering a stroke. The number of Victoria's British subjects had doubled during her reign, and few could remember a time when she was not queen. Her passing marked not just the end of a reign, but the end of an entire age. The Victorian era had witnessed the birth of the modern world, railways and telegraphs connecting continents, scientific discoveries from evolution to electricity, social reforms from child labor laws to public education, and the transformation of Britain from an agricultural society into the world's first industrial superpower. History has left us thousands of photographs, paintings, and engravings from Victorian Britain. Snapshots frozen in time, waiting to be brought back to life. So tell us in the comments, which historical era would you like to see revived next? Your choice could be featured in our next video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the past.